Well, good morning, everybody. Today, we're in quarantine still, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and start doing some videos on home defense. Home defense doesn't have to be expensive, and when supplies start running out, it's always a good idea to become creative and have a few tricks up your sleeve. And here's one that I'd like to take credit for, but it's a variation of what somebody else did. Home defense does not have to be expensive, and sometimes the most inexpensive ways are the best. Not always, but sometimes. Anyhow, today what we're going to be building, we are going to be building tripwires. Now, the hardest thing about a quarantine when the world goes nuts is sleeping at night, because everybody's trying to steal your Charmin, right? Or whatever you have, your grill, or who knows, your car. People want stuff, they're going to try to take it. Sleeping at night is hard because, well, you're constantly worried someone's stealing your stuff. Having a little extra defense around the home, something's going to wake you up, wake up your neighbors, and make the dog go crazy, is the best way to be able to get a good night's sleep. Also, I'm going to say during this video that safety first. Please follow all safety things like wearing safety glasses, gloves. Don't be drinking and doing work, stuff like that. It's just not good. Alright, so what you will need for this project. All of these items you can get at the dollar store. You don't have to get the exact same things I did, but just get things that are similar. First off, you can buy these blasting caps. They're for kids' cap guns. You know, they squeeze the trigger and they go bang, and they sound just like a real gun. They're pretty freaking loud. You can get 100 of them for $1 at any dollar store. I know you used to be able to find them at Walmart, but I'm not sure if you can anymore. But I know the Dollar Tree does sell them. For $1, you can get 100 of them. You only need one per trap, so I get a couple of these. Another thing, you're going to need some sort of a stake, and I'm going to be using plastic knives because they're pretty well worthless for eating food. Nobody ever uses them. We have a million plastic knives because the forks and spoons run out first. So I hung on to them, figured I'd find a use one day. I have. Another thing is it's something to mark with: a pencil, pen, crayon, something like that, magic marker. Some sort of a file. A chainsaw file works great. It's a round file because you're going to be drilling a hole, and you want to make sure to keep your edges nice and burr-free. You need some sort of tape, duct tape, electrical tape, any kind of tape will work. Doesn't have to be the greatest quality either, just got to be tape. Scotch tape I would kind of stay away from because Scotch tape doesn't work very well. You're also going to need some twine or fishing line, wire, anything that you're going to use for a trip line because, well, that's how it works. Your foot hits it or you brush into it and it trips. So preferably something that's not brightly colored. The fishing line works the best because, well, it's clear. But for today's purposes, I'm just going to use some old twine that I had just lying around. You can get twine at the dollar store, well, for $1. You're also going to need some sort of adhesive, Gorilla Glue, wood glue, Elmer's glue. There's something that dries. Something that dries fairly good. That's what's going to hold on your blasting cap. So to get started, the first thing that we need to do is we need to pick a piece of tape and tie on our stake. So pull yourself off a generous piece of tape. Take your stake and then tape it to the trap on the bottom of the trap, not the top. Essentially, it's going to look like this when it's said and done. Just like that. Now, I tape it a little better than that, but just for training purposes, this would be fine. The next thing you want to do is you're going to want to drill a hole. Now, you don't need to mark it, but I will mark this So for training purposes, so you can see exactly where I'm going to be drilling the hole. Just about a 1/4 inch, maybe closer to an 1/8, I would say, above the trip on your mousetrap, where that black mark is. I don't know if you can see it or not. I can't see what I'm doing, but that's where you want to put your trip, or where you put your hole in. 1/4 inch drill bit works great. Safety first, right? All right, let's drill the hole. We're going to take our drill. Hole is drilled. Now, remember, always do a quality job. Quality is very important. So, we don't want sharp or rough edges, so take your file, run it through that hole a little bit, get all the burrs out, because if your line gets stuck, your trap is not going to work. Just run the file through there. You know, really spend some time with that, because that could make it fail. The next thing you need to do is take a piece of twine and tie a loop in it. Just a standard loop. Maybe about 1 foot would be good. Just a foot of line. Now this one's a little shorter, but it'll work. This is where your spring clamp is going to come in handy. Go ahead and pull back. Careful not to snap your fingers. But pull back your trap. Take your clamp, set it in place so that trap can't come back and snap at you. Now through the back side of your trap, run your string. The end that does not have the loop. That's somewhat tricky. Okay. And pull out just enough where you can tie it to the part of the trap that sets it off. Just tie a regular knot, and I'll show you here in just 1 second how this looks when it's done. Sometimes tying that is a little bit tricky. You don't have a lot of room, especially if you're like me and you got big old fat fingers, to be able to tie it. But you know, this is the important part. If it's not tied well enough and it slips off, your trap is going to be worthless. So take a few extra seconds. And if you're in quarantine, you get all the time in the world. But take a few extra seconds to make sure that knot good and tight. Now, you're going to want to trim off your excess so that doesn't get in the way. Which, use a knife, a lighter, pair of scissors, whatever. Just trim it off. Just be sure not to damage the knot in doing so, or otherwise you're going to have to redo it. Okay, so this is what your trap should look like at this point. Loop end on the back side of the trap, through the hole, and into the trip part of the trap. Now, carefully release your spring. And take your marker, pen, crayon, whatever, and mark where that spring is going to hit on that trap. Pull back your trap again. Clamp it back in place. Safety first, remember. Okay. Now on that line where you put your, where that spring is going to hit, is where you're going to glue your primers. So take your primer, put some glue on the back side of it. Make sure it's good and slobbed on there. And put it right where your line is. Right where that spring is going to hit. Make sure it's glued very well, because if that falls off, your trap will be ineffective. Now, after making these for a while, I found a trick where I was just letting it dry like this. But I found out that if you actually take the clamp off and very carefully release your trap so that the spring sits on your primer, and then you let it dry like that, it will, your drying will be that much easier. Now, when you set these traps, you would put this end on one end and stake it into the ground, and then at either a tree or another stake a little further along, you would run your tripwire to your looped end. You tie that in a knot, set your trap, and then very carefully pull it taut without setting off your trap. The first time someone walks across that and hits that, it'll pull your bail, your trap will sling up, and it's going to hit that primer, and it's going to blow that primer. It's going to sound like a gun going off. And if you strategically place them in the right areas, your home will be just that much more secure. These are non-lethal, which is even better because you don't want the neighborhood cat getting into it, or a neighbor kid or somebody else, but you still want to be alerted somebody is in your yard or coming up your staircase or in your home. If they go off, they make a lot of noise, and that's about it. But it's a good first defense. It's a good first warning that something is not right and something is in your area. The only real downfall is depending on how windy it is outside, can set traps off, or a leaf blowing across your trip line can set it off. But in an emergency situation, these will make you sleep a heck of a lot better at night. They're easy to make, very inexpensive. It's all these items you can find at the dollar store, and they're pretty effective. But I'll be putting out some other videos if people enjoy this well enough of other things you can do to help prepare yourself for what we're going through now. So thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.